Imagine waking up one ordinary Tuesday to discover your entire life could change by Wednesday. That's exactly what happened to Eliza Morgan when desperation drove her to make the boldest declaration of her life to a virtual stranger. If you've ever felt like time was running out on your dreams, this story might just give you hope when you need it most. Stay with me until the end for a twist that even I didn't see coming. If this story touches your heart, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more stories that remind us of the unexpected ways love finds us. The fluorescent lights of Sunshine Daycare Center buzzed overhead as Eliza Morgan rushed through the double doors, 20 minutes late and completely frazzled. Her normally sleek brown hair had rebelled against the morning's humidity, and the coffee stain on her blouse, courtesy of a sudden break at a red light, completed her disheveled appearance. "I'm so sorry," she gasped to Ms. Patel, the center's director, who stood with arms crossed and eyebrows raised in that particular way that made even grown adults feel like scolded children. "The traffic was terrible, and then my car wouldn't start, Anne." "Ms. Morgan," the director interrupted, her voice stern but not unkind, "this is the third time this month. We close at 6 o'clock sharp. Our staff have families too." Eliza nodded, shame burning her cheeks. "I know. I'm truly sorry. It won't happen again." "I'm afraid I've heard that before." Ms. Patel's expression softened slightly. "Look, Eliza, I understand you're doing this alone, but we have policies. One more late pickup, and we'll have to discuss whether Sunshine is the right fit for Lily." The words hit Eliza like a physical blow. Sunshine was the only daycare within reasonable distance of both her apartment and workplace that she could almost afford. Almost, because even with her promotion at the architectural firm, the monthly fees still required creative budgeting and the occasional skipped meal. "I understand," she whispered, her throat tight. Ms. Patel nodded and gestured toward the playroom. "Lily's with Mr. Bennett. He stayed late to wait with her." Eliza frowned. "Mr. Bennett? Is he new?" "Started last month. He's wonderful with the children. A single father himself, actually." Eliza made her way to the playroom, where she found her 4-year-old daughter sitting cross-legged on a colorful rug, completely engrossed in a picture book being read by a man with kind eyes and a voice that changed dramatically with each character. Lily was giggling, her small face alight with joy in a way Eliza hadn't seen in weeks. The man looked up as Eliza entered, and something shifted in the air between them. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but there was a steadiness to his features that Eliza found immediately comforting. His dark hair was slightly rumpled, as if he'd run his hands through it multiple times, and the sleeves of his blue button-down were rolled up to reveal forearms marked with what appeared to be paint stains. "Mommy!" Lily exclaimed, jumping up and running to Eliza. Mr. Noah was reading about dragons. "Did you know they can be friendly?" Eliza scooped her daughter up, inhaling the familiar scent of baby shampoo and Play-Doh. "Is that so? That sounds wonderful, sweetheart." The man, Noah, stood and extended his hand. "Noah Bennett. You must be Eliza. Lily's told me all about you." His handshake was firm, his palm warm against hers. "All good things, I hope," Eliza replied, attempting a smile despite her embarrassment at being so late. "The best," Noah assured her. "She's quite proud of her architect mom who builds big buildings." Eliza felt a flush of pleasure at that. Despite her struggles, at least Lily was proud of her. "Thank you for staying late with her. I'm so sorry about the inconvenience." Noah waved away her apology. "No inconvenience. My son, Max, is having a sleepover at his grandparents' tonight, so I was in no rush." He glanced at his watch. "Though I should probably get going now." "Of course," Eliza said quickly. "Thanks again." As Noah gathered his things, Lily tugged at Eliza's sleeve. "Mommy, can Mr. Noah come have dinner with us? He said he doesn't have anyone to cook for tonight." Eliza's eyes widened in mortification. Lily, Mr. Noah probably has plans. Actually, Noah interrupted with a sheepish smile, what I told Lily was that I wasn't looking forward to cooking for just myself tonight. But I wouldn't want to impose. Something about his easy manner and the genuine warmth in his eyes made Eliza do something completely out of character. We're just having spaghetti. Nothing fancy. But you're welcome to join us if you'd like. The surprise on Noah's face quickly gave way to a smile that reached his eyes. Spaghetti happens to be my specialty to eat. I'd love to. And that was how Eliza found herself leading a virtual stranger to her small apartment, wondering what on earth had possessed her to extend such an invitation when her home was in disarray and her life even more so. The apartment wasn't as bad as she'd feared. The morning's rush had left some breakfast dishes in the sink and toys scattered across the living room floor, but otherwise, it was presentable enough. The space was small but thoughtfully arranged, Eliza's architectural training evident in the way she'd maximized every square foot. Nice place, Noah commented, and Eliza could tell he meant it. I love what you've done with the built-ins. Eliza smiled, pleased that he'd noticed the custom bookshelves she'd designed and installed herself over several weekends. Thanks. It's amazing what you can do with some basic carpentry skills and YouTube tutorials. While Lily showed Noah her collection of stuffed animals, Eliza moved around the kitchen, setting water to boil and chopping vegetables for a simple salad. There was something oddly comfortable about having him in her space, as if they'd done this before. Can I help? Noah asked, appearing in the kitchen doorway. You're a guest, Eliza protested. A guest who invited himself to dinner, he countered with a grin. At least let me make myself useful. So Eliza handed him a knife and a cucumber, and they worked side by side in companionable silence, broken occasionally by Lily's commentary from where she sat at the small kitchen table, coloring. So, Noah said eventually, Lily mentioned you're an architect? Eliza nodded. At Meridian Design Group. I just made associate last month. Congratulations. That's impressive. Thanks. It's been a long road. She hesitated, then added, Ms. Patel mentioned you're a single dad too? Noah's hand stilled momentarily before resuming their rhythmic chopping. Yes. Max is 6. His mom left when he was 2. The simple statement held volumes of unspoken pain, and Eliza felt an immediate kinship with this man she barely knew. Lily's father has never been in the picture, she offered. He wasn't ready for fatherhood, apparently. Noah nodded, understanding in his eyes. It's not easy doing it alone. No, Eliza agreed softly. It's not. The conversation flowed easily through dinner, with Lily providing much of the entertainment with her animated stories about preschool adventures. Eliza couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed so much or felt so at ease with another adult. Noah had a quiet humor and a way of listening that made her feel heard in a way she hadn't experienced in years. After Lily was tucked into bed, Eliza and Noah sat on the small balcony with glasses of inexpensive red wine, the city lights twinkling below them. Thank you for dinner, Noah said. It's been a while since I've had an adult conversation that didn't revolve around superhero preferences or the proper way to cut a sandwich. Eliza laughed. I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes I catch myself using my mom voice in meetings at work. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the distant sounds of traffic and the occasional siren. Can I ask you something? Noah said finally. And feel free to tell me it's none of my business. Eliza tensed slightly but nodded. Is everything okay? I couldn't help but overhear Ms. Patel earlier, and you seemed pretty upset. Eliza sighed, swirling the wine in her glass. Under normal circumstances, she would have deflected, changed the subject, maintained the careful facade of having it all together that she presented to the world. But something about the night, about Noah's presence, made her want to be honest. Not really, she admitted. I'm hanging on by a thread most days. The promotion came with more money but also more hours and responsibility. My babysitter quit last month because I kept getting home late, and now Sunshine is threatening to kick Lily out for the same reason. She took a deep breath. My lease is up for renewal next week, and they're raising the rent by 20%, which I can't afford. And my car is making a noise that I'm pretty sure means expensive repairs I also can't afford. Once she started, the words kept coming, like water through a broken dam. My parents live across the country, and my only sister is in the Peace Corps in Tanzania. I have friends, but they're all busy with their own lives and families. Most days, I feel like I'm drowning, and no one can see it because I've gotten so good at pretending I'm fine. To her horror, tears welled in her eyes. She blinked rapidly, trying to force them back. I'm sorry. I don't usually dump my problems on people I've just met. Noah didn't offer empty reassurances or try to fix her problems. He simply reached across the small table and covered her hand with his. Don't apologize. Sometimes it helps just to say it out loud. His touch was warm and steady, and Eliza found herself turning her hand to grasp his, drawing strength from the connection. You know what the worst part is? She whispered. It's not even the practical stuff, the money or the time. It's that I'm so tired of doing it all alone. Of being the only one who cares if the bills get paid or if Lily has clean clothes for school. Of having no one to share the good moments with, like when she wrote her name for the first time or when I got that promotion. She laughed bitterly. God, I sound pathetic. You don't, Noah said firmly. You sound human. Eliza looked up at him, at the genuine understanding in his eyes, and something inside her broke open. Before she could think better of it, the words tumbled out. I need a husband by tomorrow. As soon as the words left her mouth, Eliza wanted to disappear. What was she thinking? She'd known this man for all of 5 hours, and here she was, practically proposing to him on her balcony. But Noah didn't laugh or look uncomfortable. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently and said in the calmest voice imaginable. What you need isn't a husband. What you need is a partner. Someone who stands with you, not because of a piece of paper, but because they choose to, every day. The simple truth of his words struck Eliza speechless. She'd been so focused on the traditional solution, find a man, get married, create the nuclear family she thought Lily needed, that she'd lost sight of what she truly craved, partnership, support, someone to share the load. And those don't come on demand, Noah continued softly. They grow over time, with trust and shared experiences. But that doesn't mean you have to keep doing everything alone until then. What do you mean? Eliza asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I mean there are other kinds of support systems. Friends who become like family. Communities that lift each other up. Single parents who understand exactly what you're going through because they're living it too. He paused. People like me. Eliza stared at him, not quite understanding. I'm not proposing, Noah clarified with a small smile. That would be crazy after one dinner. But I am suggesting that maybe we could help each other out sometimes. Carpooling to daycare. Trading off evenings so each of us can work late when needed. Having someone to call when the car makes that noise or when Lily writes her name and you want to celebrate. The simplicity and practicality of his suggestion brought fresh tears to Eliza's eyes, but these were different, tears of relief, of a burden shared, if only in theory for now. Why would you do that for someone you barely know? She asked. Noah's expression grew thoughtful. Because 4 years ago, I was where you are now. Drowning and too proud to admit it. And then my neighbor, a retired teacher named Eleanor, saw me struggling to carry groceries while holding a screaming toddler, and she simply said, "Let me help." Those 3 words changed everything for me. He shrugged. Maybe this is my chance to pay it forward. They talked late into the night, moving from the balcony to the couch when the evening air grew too cool. They exchanged phone numbers and made tentative plans for Noah to pick up Lily along with Max the following Thursday when Eliza had a client meeting that would run past daycare hours. When Noah finally left, just after midnight, Eliza stood in her doorway watching him walk to his car, feeling lighter than she had in years. Not because she'd found a husband, she hadn't, but because for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel completely alone. The next morning, Eliza woke to a text from Noah. "Max wants to know if Lily likes the park. Thought we might take them Saturday afternoon if you're free." Smiling, she texted back, "She loves the park. Saturday sounds perfect." That Saturday turned into a Sunday dinner the following weekend, which became a regular tradition. Noah taught Eliza basic car maintenance, saving her hundreds in repair costs, while she helped him design a built-in desk for Max's room. They started a carpool system with 2 other single parents from Sunshine, ensuring no child was ever picked up late again. When Eliza's landlord raised the rent, Noah mentioned that the apartment below his was coming available, at a price she could afford. The building had a communal garden where the children could play, and the proximity meant impromptu dinners and last-minute childcare swaps became even easier. Months passed, and the friendship between them deepened. They celebrated holidays together, nursed sick children together, and gradually, almost imperceptibly, became each other's emergency contacts, confidants, and biggest supporters. It was nearly a year to the day after that first dinner when Noah asked Eliza to take a walk with him after the children were asleep. Their babysitter, Eleanor, Noah's former neighbor who had become like a grandmother to both Max and Lily, shooing them out the door with a knowing smile. They strolled through the neighborhood park, the same one where they'd had their first official outing, now illuminated by string lights for a local festival. "Do you remember what you said to me that first night on your balcony?" Noah asked as they sat on a bench overlooking the small pond. Eliza groaned, covering her face with her hands. "Please don't remind me. I was at my lowest point." Noah gently pulled her hands away, holding them in his. "You said you needed a husband by tomorrow. And I said what you really needed was a partner." Eliza nodded, her heart beginning to race at the intensity in his eyes. "I meant what I said then," Noah continued. "A piece of paper doesn't make a partnership. But sometimes, a partnership becomes so essential, so right, that you want that piece of paper too." He took a deep breath. "I love you, Eliza. I love the family we've been building. I love the way you've taught me to see beauty in small spaces and ordinary moments. I love the mother you are to Lily and the friend you've become to Max." With trembling hands, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I'm not asking because you need a husband. I'm asking because I need you, your strength, your laughter, your architect's eye for possibility where others see only problems." He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" "Not by tomorrow, whenever you're ready." Tears spilled down Eliza's cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Finally, she managed to whisper, "Yes. Yes, I will." As Noah slipped the ring onto her finger, Eliza thought about that desperate woman on the balcony a year ago, so convinced that what she needed was an instant solution to her loneliness. How wrong she had been, and how fortunate that Noah had seen past her words to the real need underneath. What had changed her life wasn't finding a husband by tomorrow. It was finding someone who understood that real partnerships aren't built overnight but day by day, crisis by crisis, joy by joy. Their wedding, 6 months later, was nothing like the elaborate affairs Eliza had once dreamed of as a young girl. Instead, it was held in the communal garden of their apartment building, decorated with string lights and wildflowers grown by the children in their little garden plots. Max served as ring bearer, while Lily scattered rose petals with such enthusiasm that several guests found them in their shoes days later. Eleanor, who had become the cornerstone of their extended family, sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Beside her were the other single parents from their carpool group, who had gradually formed a tight-knit community that celebrated holidays together, traded childcare, and showed up with casseroles during illnesses. Eliza wore a simple cream dress she'd found at a vintage shop, altered slightly to fit her perfectly. Noah couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him, her hand resting on the arm of Ms. Patel, who had agreed to give her away after Eliza's parents' flight was delayed by a snowstorm. "You look beautiful," Noah whispered when she reached him. "So do you," she replied, straightening his slightly crooked tie with the easy familiarity of someone who had been doing it for years rather than months. Their vows were simple but profound, promises not just to love each other but to continue building the partnership they had already begun, to support each other's dreams, to share both burdens and joys, to create a home where both children could flourish. "I never thought I'd find someone who understood that being strong doesn't mean having to do everything alone," Eliza said, her voice steady despite the tears shining in her eyes. "You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's how we build something greater than ourselves." Noah's voice cracked as he responded, "You showed me that family isn't just what you're born into, it's what you create together, day by day, choice by choice." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in cheers. Max and Lily rushed forward to embrace them, creating a family hug that symbolized everything the ceremony had been about. The reception was a potluck affair, with each guest contributing a dish that held meaning for them. There was Eleanor's famous lasagna, Ms. Patel's samosas, and a slightly lopsided cake made by Max and Lily with Eleanor's supervision. As evening fell and the fairy lights twinkled overhead, Noah pulled Eliza onto the makeshift dance floor for their first dance. The song they'd chosen wasn't a traditional wedding ballad but a simple melody about finding home in another person's arms. "Happy?" Noah asked as they swayed together. Eliza looked around at the garden filled with people who had become their village, neighbors who collected mail during vacations, fellow parents who understood the chaos of school projects, friends who showed up without being asked when things got hard. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from that desperate night on her balcony to this moment of profound contentment. "More than happy," she replied. "Grateful. For you. For this life we're building. For that moment of complete honesty when I blurted out the most ridiculous thing I could have said to a virtual stranger." Noah laughed, the sound warm against her hair. "It wasn't ridiculous. It was brave. You put your deepest need into words, even if they weren't quite the right ones. And your calm reply changed everything," Eliza said softly, echoing the title of the story their friends now loved to tell at gatherings. Later that night, after the guests had gone home and the children were asleep in their rooms, Max's with its custom-built desk, Lily's with the star chart Eliza and Noah had painted together, they stood on the balcony of their apartment, much like they had that first night. "You know," Noah said, his arm around Eliza's waist, "I've been thinking about what you said that night, about needing a husband by tomorrow." Eliza groaned. "Will I ever live that down?" "I hope not," Noah said with a grin. "Because in a way, you were right." "How do you figure that?" "Well, you didn't need just any husband. You needed someone who understood what you were really asking for, partnership, support, someone to share the load. And maybe you didn't need it by the next day, but you needed to know it was possible, that you weren't condemned to do it all alone forever." He kissed her temple. "So in a way, that night, you got exactly what you needed, not a husband by tomorrow, but the promise of one when the time was right." Eliza turned in his arms, resting her hands on his chest. "When did you know? That this might be more than just two single parents helping each other out?" Noah considered the question. "Remember when your car broke down on the highway, and you called me instead of roadside assistance?" Eliza nodded. It had been about 2 months after they'd met. "You were so apologetic, as if asking for help was this terrible imposition. But all I felt was this overwhelming gratitude that you'd called me, that you trusted me to show up for you. I fixed your car, but something in me shifted too. I realized I wanted to be the person you called, always." Eliza smiled, remembering how he'd arrived with Max in tow, how they'd turned a stressful situation into an impromptu picnic on the roadside while Noah replaced her alternator belt. "For me, it was when you got that commission for the Children's Museum, and I called you before I called anyone else. I realized you were the person I wanted to share good news with, not just the crises." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the city a gentle backdrop to their thoughts. You know what I've learned? Eliza said finally. That sometimes the things we think we need immediately, the quick fixes, the instant solutions, aren't what we need at all. What we really need is patience, and the courage to let something grow naturally. Like us, Noah agreed. Like us, Eliza echoed, leaning up to kiss him. 5 years later, their family had grown to include a toddler named Jamie, born 2 years after their wedding. Their apartment building had evolved into a true community, with shared meals in the garden every Sunday and a childcare co-op that allowed all the parents more flexibility with work and personal time. Eliza had started her own architectural firm specializing in creating functional, beautiful spaces for families in urban environments, while Noah had discovered a talent for writing children's books, his first series inspired by the adventures of Max and Lily. Life wasn't perfect. They still had arguments about household chores and parenting approaches. Money was sometimes tight, especially after Eliza's business weathered a recession. There were nights when one or both of them collapsed into bed too exhausted to do more than mumble goodnight. But they faced each challenge together, their partnership stronger for having been built deliberately, day by day, rather than rushed into out of desperation. On the anniversary of that first dinner each year, they would sit on their balcony with glasses of wine, better wine now, but the same conversation, and marvel at how a moment of raw honesty and a calm, thoughtful response had changed the trajectory of both their lives. "I needed a husband by tomorrow," Eliza would say, laughing at her former self. And Noah would always respond, "What you needed was a partner." And as it turns out, that's exactly what I needed too. In the end, what had seemed like an impossible demand, a husband by tomorrow, had actually been the first step towards something far more valuable, a partnership that grew stronger with each passing day, a family built on choice rather than obligation, and the profound understanding that the best things in life aren't rushed but cultivated with patience, honesty, and love. As for Lily and Max, now teenagers navigating the complexities of high school, they had grown up witnessing what true partnership looked like. They had learned that families come in all forms, that communities can be created rather than just born into, and that sometimes the most desperate moments can lead to the most beautiful beginnings, if you're brave enough to speak your truth and lucky enough to find someone who hears what you're really saying. And that, perhaps, was the greatest gift of all. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Remember that sometimes our greatest moments of vulnerability can lead to our most meaningful connections, and that true partnerships aren't found overnight, they're built day by day, with patience, understanding, and love. Share in the comments a time when honesty changed your life, and join our community of storytellers finding hope in unexpected places.